Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm so thrilled to see so many of you here today as we explore the exciting world of AI and its impact on lease administration and abstraction. I'm Rukmani Anantaraman from RE Back Office. I have over 18 years of digital marketing experience, including AI based marketing. I'll be your webinar host this morning. Before we kick things off, just a quick note, if you have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to drop them at the chat box that's located in the right-hand corner of your screen. We'll address all your queries at the end of the webinar. So don't hesitate to go along and engage with us during the webinar, okay? Now, please allow me to introduce you to our speakers for today's webinar. We have Harbinder Khera, co-founder of RE Back Office. Harbinder has 25 plus years of AI technology and commercial real estate experience. And the other speaker this afternoon is Megan Redman. Megan is the client services manager at RE Back Office. She's got global lease admin experience for 10 plus years, that is more than a decade, providing financial, operational, project, and strategic support in commercial real estate. Megan, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. Today, we're going to be talking about a topic that seems to be pretty much everywhere these days, AI. As Rukmani mentioned, I have a background in lease administration and corporate real estate, and I've been in various capacities over the years, so I'm very excited to learn from Harbinder more about this topic. So today, before we get into the webinar itself, if I can give a very quick introduction to RE Back Office for those of you who may not be as familiar with us. So RE Back Office is based here in Pittsburgh, and we are a leading provider of lease administration, abstraction, and CAM reconciliation services. We have been in business since 2006 and provides these services to a variety of clients, including retailers, property managers, owners, brokers, all of that fun stuff. So this experience over the years has kind of led us to the webinar today on AI through the development and the utilization of our Lease AI tool that was developed here. So now we're going to kind of focus in on Harbinder and ask some questions of him about AI. So Harbinder, over the years, AI has become a very hot topic, and it seems to be pretty much everywhere. Every time I'm listening to a podcast or open the news, there's something more new about AI happening. So when it comes to real estate, I'm kind of curious on what that looks like for us. So if you can, in very non-tech terms, kind of go over what exactly AI is for the basic user, essentially.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Megan. We're pretty excited to be on this webinar today, as Rukmani pointed out. Started this company almost 18 years, and I've been in AI world almost 25 plus years. Actually, I would say 28 years. I took my first class in AI, I would say 28 years ago.
Sure.
And so that's a long time being in the AI space, and finally you get to see what's happening. And so stuff that I studied in college, and now you started to see things evolving. And now, obviously, for the last 10 years, we have spent a lot of time in AI. So I'd love to kind of share my experience and kind of really talk about where we're at today in terms of AI, from a real estate practitioner's perspective. What is something they need to know? Okay. And so when you think about AI, so let me just kind of break this down. So for everybody who can really understand, and a lot of you folks have already experienced AI in some shape or form in the last 10 years. This is not new. Some elements are new. And that is something I want to talk about. All of you guys watch Netflix. And as part of the Netflix, or you guys go on YouTube and you watch some song, and the next reel that gives you another recommended music or recommended movie, that is part of we call as a traditional machine learning. Okay. That is all part of AI. Okay. And what is AI? Anything that you can, technology, technique that can mimic human behavior, that is AI. Okay. So just to kind of break this down, that anything that mimics the technology, human behavior, that is AI. Now, as part of the traditional machine learning that has been there for ages, and so if you think about recommended training, recommended learning, and recommended movie, recommended TikTok or YouTube, that is part of a traditional machine learning. Okay. Now, that is mostly mathematical. It's a linear algebra, statistical modeling that, hey, a group of people of this persona watch this, you fit in that persona, then you most likely you're going to watch this movie or watch this, video. Okay. That is part of very traditional. There's so many mathematical models out there, and that's the technology has been there for ages. And everybody has embraced this technology in some shape or form. If you guys are using a business setting, some training courses you have taken gives you recommended training. That is part of a traditional machine learning. Now, the deep learning, and that is what we're going to be talking about today, is the rise of LLM, large-scale language models. And that is actually, because where you are looking at the data set, that is humongous. That is like over 200 billion data sets compiled, organized in a fashion that's something that the technology that that you can leverage now, and I will be getting into the details of that. And you heard of Chat GPT and Bard, and that is all part of a deep learning LLM model, large scale language models. Okay. Now, if you think about large scale language models, what happens if you think about where a user is interacting with the data set, in a common language? Okay. And basically, where you come in and you ask questions, it looks at the lease data or any data, your private data, company data, and then it gives you the response back. The key is in common language. Okay. And sends it to, if you're using ChatGPT, I'm sure all of you guys have used it. And there is obviously, there's a lot of public data available. Now, depending upon the large scale language models that you might have used, there's a timestamp to it. They said, okay, this data has been updated almost maybe 2 years ago, or recently as of a year ago, or 6 months ago. Most of the language models may not have the most up-to-date data set, what is available in the public domain. However, that system has been trained to do summarization of information. That's what the large language models are doing. It is summarizing whatever you feed into it. It summarizes it, and you can say summarize in an email format, some blog or social. It gives you the data back. But the important thing is it gives you a data back in a certain format, but the data still is being unstructured. That you have to take that data set and structure it and use it the way you want to use it for your day-to-day use. Okay? That is what is happening today. So you're taking common language, and that is the paradigm shift that has happened because of the LLM models that have come up. Okay? So, Megan, is that clear? I just want to make sure.
It's very clear. You were able to dumb it down for my level. So AI is everywhere, and it's so interesting, the various different types, especially. I didn't even know that AI was broken down in that way. Unfortunately, something that's not as fun or exciting is kind of, what do we do about data privacy, security, compliance, all of those not so fun things you have to kind of think about, especially when you have really sensitive information involved here. So could you kind of give us some advice on that piece of it and keeping data safe in the AI world?
Absolutely. So before I get into that, I want to just touch upon one important topic, Megan. is why now? Okay. As I said, I took my first class 28 years ago. And why now? What happened? And what happened where there's a lull period for the last almost 25 years, especially on the LLM side? What actually happened in the industry that has catapulted the use of LLMs or deep learning that is actually made as a commodity that every person has access to it? That is the key. Why now?
Yeah.
The biggest reason I would say access to faster computing. The NVIDIA chips, all that stuff has really transformed and made it accessible for common people like us to use these AI-based tools and data set. Technology was there, but now we were able to train. If you think about ChatGPT, has been trained over 200 billion data points. They have consumed all the data dictionaries, the grammar, English, and so much stuff has been fed into it. In order to do that, you need faster computers, and also storage. And then now that because of that, and it's also at a reasonable price point. Now, if I could do this 10 years ago, but it's so expensive that people will not be able to use it. Okay. The key is to have this technology available and made it accessible for everybody.
Yeah.
Now, coming back to your original question, privacy. Okay. So data privacy is the key, especially, in our space, because that is something I want all the real estate professionals to keep that in mind. You cannot take your lease data or whatever data and just go and put it on ChatGPT and start using it. And especially when you have a lot of that information available in confidential information. So the key is, how do you use LLM models with the security, compliance, and guardrails in place? That is the key. You need to think about, when you're working in a business and, working as a lease administrator, or you are doing a CAMREC, or you're a property manager, facility manager, there's a data that is available to you. That is your personal data, something that you're working on. And then there is a corporate data. Let's say you have all the leases, that is your corporate data, company data. And you need to make sure there's a proper guardrails in place, because what is on ChatGPT or OpenAI, that is public data. Right. So how do you use these technologies with the proper security guardrails in place? So that way, you're not using, you're not sending everything and dumping onto ChatGPT and say, hey, just do it. And some of the stuff, again, maybe, may not be utilized for training of the LLM models. So the key is, number one, look at, a lot of these LLM companies, they have APIs, open APIs. As part of the APIs, they tell you that data is secure. And so use the APIs or talk to third-party vendors like Rebo or your property management applications that you guys are working with. And I'll talk about that in a second, because the property management applications may provide you guys to give you the guardrails that who has access to that data set. Because the trick is part of this AI technology, you only send the data that need to be summarized. You don't send everything and say, just look at it. You only send the relevant pieces of information. And then after that is done, you say you forget about it. It's forgotten. So that way the data is not stored or anything happening there. So you want to make sure they're using the correct technology on top of this OpenAI to make that happen. So I want to make sure the privacy security is the key. And but there are tools, resources available to ensure that you could utilize these technologies with the proper compliance procedures in place.
Right. Yeah, I know it's not one of the most fun parts of the conversation with AI and technology. So thank you very, very much for kind of going over that. It's always a hot topic. So for something that might be a little bit more exciting, if you can kind of explain to me how AI can be used when it comes more into the real estate lease administration world, could you kind of walk us through some use cases that illustrate that application of AI in, the real world, essentially?
Absolutely. So this is the fun part. This is the fun part of today's presentation. As I said, we've spent a lot of time for the last so many years looking at how we use AI as a business. So one of the important things that I want to just touch upon, and will be covered at the end, AI is here to stay. Number one, as business practitioners, we need to use AI. We need to embrace it. And I tell everybody, and all my clients and everybody, and I'm going to use a bold statement, that we need to think about using AI we need to self-destruct our business, self-destruct ourselves, how we do things, how we operate, use AI to make our day-to-day business practices more effective, efficient, learn from it, and pass the savings to our customers, pass the savings to our business, to CFO, because everybody has to see the benefit of that. If we don't do that, the competition will destruct you. Other folks, AI will destruct you. It will be replaced down the road. Embracing it and becoming more effective with it, and that is the key. So there are many use cases, and the first use case that comes to my mind, and that's something that we at RE Back Office, start embracing machine learning. By the way, I'm going to say machine learning almost 7-8 years ago, and we built our own Lease AI tool. And basically, what it does, and again, that is one of the lease abstraction is one of the key. When you have thousands of leases, different languages, data coming in, how do you summarize it? How do you do all that stuff at scale? That is really where you use the AI technology, machine learning part initially, I have a little box at the bottom says OpenAI, and that was an add-on last year. And I'll tell you why we have done this. So basically what you can do, take a PDF, take an OCR scan document using obviously through the guardrails, and you can find the financial data, find the addresses, find the clauses, summarization of clauses. And again, one thing that I mentioned earlier, the data coming from these systems is coming in a very unstructured format if you have to use this with the property management application. A lot of property management application, a lot of our partners who are on the call today, they have some plugins or they work with us. They have their own, lease abstraction capability. They're using machine learning that they have done in the past. Okay, now everybody is also adding OpenAI to it or LLM models, and I'll tell you why. Okay, as an example, when you look at a lease, you have many addresses. You have a landlord address and mail to address, and when you have a bunch of addresses, when you OCR the data, it gets jumbled.
Yeah.
So it gets jumbled. Now, and this is where the beauty of AI comes in, LLM. You can just take that jumbled 3 addresses and send it to OpenAI and say, hey, format that for me.
That would be nice.
And it does it beautifully because it has the access to the public data. It has got every possible address in the world is being fed into the system. It knows exactly that street belongs in Pittsburgh, that zip code. It will organize and separate that for you beautifully.
Wow.
And that's really where you're using a combination of ML and OpenAI combination, and that's where you do use it for lease abstraction. Okay, so the next screen is just kind of walk you through, shows you where you can see this is our, where you can see all the fields being abstracted automatically.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a lease, it points you to the address and the location where the data set is. So you can do the QC. The important thing is integrating with your workflow. So, and I know, Megan, what you're thinking is the quality.
Yes.
The
Always.
quality, how accurate is this? And,
Yes.
I'm sure this is one of the questions that you wanted to probably ask. And this is something, yeah, go ahead, Megan.
Oh, yeah. I'm just so curious about how you ensure accuracy and how that kind of works on the back end.
Yeah, because this is one of the most important things. It is, as I said, AI tool platform. It is not 100% replacement. It is acting as a co-pilot. And so if you go back, basically, the AI tool, the quality that you can achieve is in the range of 85% plus or 90% plus. It really comes down to the quality of the documents, the data you're abstracting. But when you think about from at least this is what we are able to achieve 90% accuracy, in some places 100% accuracy. But that doesn't take away need for QC1 and the QC2 teams. That's very important. Because think about this, the risk. If you are abstracting a lease and the data has been abstracted and you charging 120, 130 bucks in lease, whatever the number is, uh, an incorrect date or something if that happens, you cannot blame the AI that AI did it. You have to take the ownership. You want to make sure the data is right, double check it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, it absolutely helps the abstractors. So we're trying to use the technology to abstract a scale and pass the saving to our customers. Remember, we talked about passing the savings. If you don't do that, that's bad. Okay, it's not a good practice. Use the technology, make yourself more effective, improve the lives of your abstractors more better. Because at the end of the day, going through the leases, thousands of leases is not an easy task. And if you have to read through and sift through, and makes a pretty difficult, challenging job. Use the technology to make the lives of your abstractors better and make them more effective and efficient at what they do. And then that's really where we see the AI technology helping, especially from a lease abstraction and adding that QC and QC2 on top of it. And is acting as a co-pilot.
Got it.
Okay. So that is one of the key use cases that you will see a lot. And that is really where you should embrace that, or have work with the vendors that can, who are using this technology, because where you can see the saving as a client to get the work done. Okay. But at the same time, do not compromise on the quality of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the other use case that we see here is basically, again, coming back to when you have a lot of documents, how you rename thousands of documents. How do you collect the data from invoices? Especially if you're doing a CAMREC or you're doing an abstraction, your documents coming in. Sometimes how the documents being OCR'd by third party, they just say ABC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 XYZ.pdf, whatever. Okay. That could be a master lease, that could be an amendment letter, that could be a side note, whatever, invoices. How do you do that? So it's a pain. How do you organize? Because the important part in our business, especially in lease abstraction, lease admin, if you have a missing document, everything is out of whack.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So keeping track, making sure that you have the right documents in order, you have the amendments in right order. So that is the key, that how you, and again, if you have to go through every document, read it, say, yep, that's invoice 2020, here's the amount. It's just a lot of work.
It is.
And it's a tedious work. It's a lot of work and it's a tedious work.
Yep.
And I'm guess everybody on the audience today, I'm sure they probably don't like doing this, but this is a necessity. This is where you use the AI technology that actually reads it and say, well, this is an amendment. This is the side letter. This is the invoice 2020, and here's the amount, and automatically rename the document.
That's awesome.
Okay. And also you can look at the invoice data, use the invoice data for collection, for CAMREC. So you can actually, when you're doing the CAM reconciliation, you can go through the CAMREC data and you can do that. Okay. So that is really the second use case that where we see, especially, from a lease administration and abstraction perspective. Okay. Now, Let's talk about the fun stuff. Okay. This is new. This is actually the beautiful thing about the LLM stuff. Okay. How do you access, or, like if you think about currently your system, the lease data is actually in the property management application. If you guys using Tango or, LeaseCake or, any of these platforms, Lucernex, any of them. And by the way, all of them are our friends and our partners that we work with them pretty closely. The data is there. Visual lease, the data is there. Okay. The first thing is, how do you make that data accessible, that if there are other stakeholders within the organization, if they need to have access to the data? Again, going back to with the proper security guardrails. Now, access to this data within common language. Say at the bottom of the screen, you see that, can you please provide the list of leases which are expiring in 2024? That is very simple. You can say, show me all the leases where the tenants live in Pittsburgh. Show me leases where all the tenants are closer to the city of Bridges. Now, the city of Bridges is Pittsburgh. only the LLM will know that, yes, in the US, the city of Bridges is in Pittsburgh. Find all the tenants that are actually in Pittsburgh. Do you see that how the technology can take your data and correlate to what is there in the public domain? And again, so using technology where you can actually search on a particular lease or all leases. So you can actually, this is the very common use case with the LLM. So where you can actually analyze the data, and you can use this for predictive analysis. Show me the leases where you see the possibility that a tenant is not going to pay or not paying, or there's a possibility there's a risk. So because you can look at the late fees, and again, it only will do the action if the data is available to the system.
Right.
And again, going back to the point I made, security guardrails, compliance in place.
Yep.
So work with a vendor, work with a property management, at least admin firm that has these plugins that sits on top of your data and gives you something at Rebo that we can work with our partner data, like coming from the lease admin applications, import that, give you the security compliance, and you can make that easily accessible to everybody in your organization within the intranet. That if the CFO wants to have access to the data, CEO wants it, or anybody else wants it, you can make that available to your tenants. If they want to query some basic data about the lease, you can stop. They say they should not have access to certain pieces of data. Okay. If you are a lessee, you can have, and again, depending upon, franchise, owner and a franchise, you want your franchisees to have access to certain lease data. You have thousands of franchisees. You can make that available to them. That way you don't have to respond to, some data that you can make it easily available within the security guardrails in place. That's the beauty of, the OpenAI, this LLM, this AI, what we see today. Now, you can take this data, you can say, hey, plot it on a map. Okay. So you can actually take this data and plot it and say, hey, show me on a map. Show me all my tenants. Okay, do it in a grid view, do it in a map view. Okay, endless opportunities and possibilities. See, that's really the beauty of the whole thing. Okay, any question on this, Megan?
I would say, so if someone wanted to integrate this type of thing, or, this plugin with their existing lease administration platform or process, because they already have one in place, how would they go about doing this? Like, what would that look like essentially for them?
If they're working with the current lease admin platforms, then they need to have something like this available.
Yes.
So yeah, so it's pretty simple. Depends if the current lease admin platform, they can, if the data could be exported in real time, is as a part of Excel documents. So again, what could be fed in, like tool like ours, the data could be fed in as an Excel or a real time data, and so lease data, lease files, and that could be updated daily, weekly, or every 2 hours, 3 hours, how often you update your data. So that could be either, a lot of times this has been already integrated. They have some, our partners already have some of the tools in place, and already as part of, they have added enhanced functionality. If your current platform does not have it, please, we can work with, or anybody, not just Rebo, but anybody who is providing this kind of service can ingest that data in real time, or we can ingest the data in batches on a daily basis and make that available. Now, the nice thing is what you see on the screen could be offered as a Chrome plugin. Okay, at a Gmail Chrome plugin, it sits on a browser. You can click on it. Obviously, the person is authenticated, knows exactly who you are within the company, and knows exactly what leases you should have access to and what lease data you should not have access to. Again, going back to the privacy and security guardrails in place. Okay.
Got it.
So there's a question asked by Morgan.
Yes.
How can you use another LLM model? Yes, you can. Again, the question is, if the data being fed into the system is not right, doesn't matter what LLM you use on top to summarize it. Okay. So when you OCR a data, and the files have handwritten notes, the commencement dates are missing, some things are out of whack, documents are not proper. So if the problem is in the underlying data model that has been fed into the AI system, irregardless of any other OpenAI or any BARD or any other LLM, will have the same problem. Okay, go back. This is all about, the game is all about data. What goes in, what comes out. And there's an element of hallucination. So when you actually look at what that is, when you look at, looking at your own data, and there's a chance that you get a much better responses if than the public data. So there's sometimes these LLM models have chances of hallucinating, giving you some, or they'll make stuff up, basically. Okay, so you have to be, that's why, you can double check some elements. Sure, you can double check it, but at the end, when you come think of a lease data, financial data, you can't. When the clients are, you're responsible for the 100% accuracy, and you're carrying an E&O on it, and an error in one of the leases, it can cost you thousands of dollars. And you want to be double checking, making sure you can't blame the E&O, or hey, I double checked on 2 LLM models, let's blame them. It is on you. So that's why we, as on a safer side, being immersed in this AI technology for all these years, we're still not giving up the QC part. Okay.
Yeah.
So for another foreseeable future, that is really what our main focus has been. Okay. So let's go to the other use case, then I'll come back to some of the comments. So the other part is, the other important aspect is generative AI. Gen AI, we hear about, we see how you can use this data to create email, social content, but mostly when I'm this example, it's like when you doing a client communication, tenant communication. So you can use the AI model, basically do email. So you can actually, for example, look at a tenant, say, hey, lease one, hey, I need to communicate, or find tenants that are not paying or paying. And then you can compose an email to basically to them, basically through the platform. Okay. Okay. So basically what it does, it can compose. This is really the beauty of generative AI. People are using for blogs and website content and everything else. So people are using this for, so you can generate any stakeholders. You want to send a summary of notes to CFO. The other important aspect, which I didn't mention here, is like when we talked about public-private data. Mm-hmm. The private data is, for example, you got on a conference call, and you summarize the Google Meet notes and transcribed, or you got on a call with a tenant or with a landlord, depending upon which side of the coin you're working in. So you can look at the transcribed data. You can upload it into the system, as a private data. This is your private data.
Right.
And you can upload this and say, hey, just compose an email summarizing my meeting with the tenant, or please summarize the meeting with the landlord, or XYZ. It can summarize it. And you have meeting notes. You can compose a beautiful email, send that to email. And this is all done within the platform or outside, whatever, and they copy paste into your Outlook or Gmail, whatever you're using. Again, this is really one of the cases that you hear a lot, about Gen AI, generating emails, blogs, social content, PowerPoint presentation, sentiment analysis. You get on a calls with, and you can do sentiment analysis, what the mood was on the call. Hey, everybody was happy or the cheerful, and people had a lot of questions. And that is really where the Gen AI is coming into play. Again, what is Gen AI? It is summarizing it for you. It has the power of understanding common language and outputting the data that you wanted in. And there we have a lot of use cases where our customers are asking the information to be translated in German, French. Say, hey, I'm talking to somebody in France, and my tenant is in France, by the way, and I want this email to go in French. Beautiful. You can translate in French. Okay, then you don't have to know French. You can say, all right, here's the tenant communication. The tenant is in especially for, a lot of companies who are multinational, they have a global presence. And it's awesome that how you can leverage the AI technology to do translation and multilingual. And it is done. It's done a pretty decent job. We have a lot of customers that where people are using have global presence. And so using this technology to leverage that is really one of the important classic cases of Gen AI. Okay. Now, in the interest of time, I'm going to go a little faster. There's some other questions being posted. The other use case is using AI technology as a chatbot on your website. Okay. So if you can, this could be the data that you want to make it available, especially real estate guys, like brokers, associations, they want to present the data that is not a confidential data, but you want to present this information to anybody who is coming to your site. Let's say you're a property management firm. You are a real estate owner and you have a lot of portfolio. You want to make that information available where people can come and say, hey, I'm looking for 5,000 square foot space. Show me. Okay. So when you see it, the idea is that you have a stacking plan. You can highlight a stacking plan, show this building, this square foot that is actually available. You tie in the visual, we talked about the maps. You tie in the visual element of real estate with the data. Okay. And that could be a floor plan. So it doesn't have to be a stacking plan, it could be a floor plan. And again, these are the tasks where the AI is really helping folks in real estate.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are many other use cases. Again, I wanted to highlight some of the key use cases. So Megan, I'm going to pause. I know I'm getting a chance to ask me any questions. So anything else?
I think we can take some questions or we can kind of take them after, but I really want to know what you think we should take away from this segment. So whatever you think is the next best step, we should definitely go forward.
Yeah, so let's look at next step for everybody on the call today. Then we'll take the comments and the questions. Number one, a lot of these folks on the call today, the question is, what's next? How do we get started? And obviously, a lot of folks have already using ChatGPT. I'm saying beyond that, okay? My recommendation is absolutely start the journey with your current platform provider, okay? Lease Admin, Lease Abstraction, the current platform provider. Start the journey there because they have the data. That's where the data sits. And a lot of our partners have their own tools they have built, some plugins. I know for sure, Lease Cake and Tango and these guys and, and other partners have their own tool set that they have created that sits on. So start your journey there because that's the starting point. Okay. Or reach out to us. We will direct you, tell you, hey, because we have tools that ingest the data from our partners, because all of these guys are partners, we can ingest the data and enhance the value of it. Or you start off the journey there. That's the first thing that I would say. Start the journey from the current partners. And certainly we'll share our details and reach out to us, and we'll point you in the right partner, software vendor, or us, and who can actually help you with that, depending upon the use case. The second part is, I would say, from my perspective, the takeaway when you think about, from a key takeaways, don't overlook the data security. That is the key. Making sure, don't just take up, your PDF or something, you got excited and put it on ChatGPT and say, hey, summarize it. Okay? Be cautious. Don't try to put any of that data, but you can certainly put the jumbled addresses. You can put it up, and it'll clean it up, because that data is already available in a public domain. As long as you're not putting a mail to address and landlord address, just say, hey, clean this up without the header on it. It will do that. Okay. The other part is, as you can see, the quality. And again, as Microsoft has pointed out, AI is your co-pilot. Okay. Now, one of the important things that I would say, everybody who's listening today, and this is what I tell everybody, human touch, human relationship becomes indispensable, after quality part, because what is going to happen if you look at the world of AI, the trust is going to erode because of all the stuff that you're going to see on internet. Sometimes you will not trust something and say, hey, I'm not sure if the person is real or not. Okay. So the trust is going to be the future currency in the world of AI. So the important thing here is focus on human touch, relationship with your tenants, the people you work with. And that is really the key. And again, you need people to double check the work. So use AI as a tool, as a co-pilot, to make yourself more effective and efficient. And again, the last point, which is the most important thing, if you embrace it. Embrace it. Learn how to use AI. Prompt writing is the key. That's something I didn't get a chance to spend time on, and leverage it. Because if you don't do it, somebody else will do it. And that will be detrimental to your personal profession, to your business. So that's really, I tell everybody. So in my other businesses that I run, use it to self-destruct your business, yourself. I know I'm using a very strong word here, self-destruct, but that is the key. Otherwise, somebody else will destruct you.
Yep.
So now I'm going to move on to some of the comments that are there. So there's a lot of questions. Wow. Thank you.
Yes.
Now, is OpenAI a SaaS model? It is actually a SaaS. This is actually a subscription that you can buy. It's based on tokens, and there's a price tag, and it's a pretty reasonable, service from Microsoft for OpenAI, and you can get the enterprise licensing key. The key here is that you want to be judicious what you send to them, in a sense that it comes to data. So the techniques that we have deployed is, you don't want to send too much information. One of the things about OpenAI, they don't take images and videos at this point. When you look at the PDFs, they only look at the textual data. So when you're sending a PDF, don't send the whole PDF. Take all the text out of the PDF, send the text there. Okay. So that is one of the techniques that we deploy. So we actually look at that, scrub all the text, and then we use other techniques to find the relevant text out of thousands of documents and send that paragraph only to OpenAI. Otherwise, you can send the whole thing. It's going to cost you a lot more money. So you want to be using effectively what is the right technique. And if you guys need our help on that perspective, we'll be more than happy to educate you guys what is the right way of doing it. But that is the key. Okay. The question about OpenAI for utility tracking or ESG compliance, I have to check. We are in the ESG business ourselves, but we have not used OpenAI for utility tracking. So that is something that is a good use case. Let me get back to you on it. So then there were there's a question from Mike. does AI know how to use ROFRs? I personally don't know if it would be helpful, Mike, if you can tell me what ROFRs are. Megan,
Right of first refusal or right of first offers. So it's an option. It's basically an option within a lease. So it's a specific area of the lease. Yeah.
Okay, absolutely. So you can actually write rules that you can find that, and then actually you can take actions. The other part of that I'm going to talk about is just quickly, but a couple of minutes left here. AI is going to summarize the data, find the right word in the clause and summarize it, and then it's going to give you data back. Okay. The action you want to take on this data is going to come in a little bit unstructured format. Okay. You want to organize the data a bit, and then you have to write your own top rule-based engine action that you need to take on top of it. Okay. That is really, when we use our lease abstraction tool, we tie in with a lot of our partner platforms. So we abstract it, and then we we create a structure to fit into the structure of the lease admin platform. So let's say you're working with LeaseCake or Tango or LucidX or any of our partner products, Lease Accelerator. And so in that case, we try to extract the data, convert it the format, because the date, like this example, is a date field. If date field has many different gazillion ways that you can represent date, and how it is being used in your lease admin, we do the translation on our end, what comes out of the AI, and so that it fits in properly into the platform that you're using. So there's a layer that you always have to keep on top of that. Okay. All right. Any more questions? So I'm hoping, let's go to the next screen here. Just to wrap this up, I'm sure you guys will have a lot of questions. Feel free to reach out to us, and you have my number, email, and email it to me. And any question about the AI. As I said, I've been spent a lot of time doing this. We have many tools we have developed doing this, and we're immersed in good, bad, and ugly. We know everything about it. Okay. And there's a good, bad, ugly to everything people do. So again, best practices, what is the right way, security, compliance across the board. And that is the key. What is the best way of doing that, utilizing the data? Ping me, go on LinkedIn, connect with me. You will see I'm a CEO of another company. As I said, many businesses we're extensively busy on the other side. Connect with me, any questions you guys may have, and I'll be more than happy to answer, and reach out to Megan, any of my team members. Thank you for your time today. And we will share the presentation with you guys after the call. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Hey, we had one request for a list of partner platforms that we work with on the chat. So maybe we can send that out separately to Michael.
Okay, so Michael, we will do that.
Yes, we have some very specific questions so that we can answer separately, like how do we integrate with ERD and Lease, how it integrates with ERD, and so on and so forth. So maybe we can get in touch with them separately and provide the answers.
So Yardi is our partner as well. And again, so we have partners on the lessee side and the lessor side. And so we work extensively with the Yardi on the lessor side. Then we have, obviously, on the lessee side, there are very many platforms. And depending upon the type of use case, some platforms are designed for, enterprise. And you look, and some platforms are designed where you have franchisee looking for, very small 10, 20, 30 leases. And so we have partners there. So we have partners in every different category. And we have selected these partners based on, their capability, what they can provide to us in terms of data set. So we can give you a lot of that feedback, who's the right partner depending upon your use case, especially if you're corporate real estate, accounting, FASB, if you're doing that, that's another use case, equipment stuff, or maybe doing ESG stuff. Not everybody has moved to the ESG compliance stuff. And if you're looking for a partner that does both ESG and everything, so we'll be more than happy to give you some guidance and counseling on that perspective. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.